All right, everyone, I've got 501 and we've got people on live Facebook and we've got several participants here and some folks in the chat. So thank you again for joining us. We just want to really welcome everyone that we're seeing. We've got folks from all around the area. This series is starting today and it's designed not only for Dearborn County, which many of the participants on this call are from, but for the entire Southeast Indiana region. And for those folks joining us even outside of the region, thank you so much for tuning in. Our first session today is going to be addressing trends in local food, but also farmers markets. We'll have 6 total meetings in this series addressing several different topics. So we're just so thankful that you joined us today and just, really happy to have the participants going. We're going to address several topics, but feel free to post anything in the chat and we'll have a Q&A at the end. So just post anything in there that you think of, and just want to appreciate everyone tuning in. For those I haven't had the chance to meet on the call, my name is John Hawley. I'm the County Agricultural and Natural Resource Educator for Dearborn County. Really quick, I'm just getting just a little bit of feedback. If you've got your mic on, just tune that off if you don't mind. Thank you. I want to make sure my video is there. There we go. My role has been, in the past 3 years on the job, my role has been very engaged with farmers markets, local food vendors, and you name it. So a lot of what I'll be sharing today are my own personal experiences, but I also want to recognize on the call one of our local experts who's currently working for Purdue Extension, and that's Colleen Perfect. She'll be presenting later on today, addressing some really neat trends we're seeing related to tower gardens. And if you don't know anything about tower gardens yet, you're in for a real treat because they're a really innovative tool that have really taken off like wildfire in our area. And I'm so excited that she'll be sharing her expertise with you tonight. So let's dive right in. So today's goals and objectives, we're going to discuss significant trends in Indiana local food systems and at farmers markets. I really tried not to deep dive too much into data per se tonight, but more about what I'm seeing, the requests that my office get for assistance, the programs that we're taking part in, the program requests we have, and so on. We'll do a quick review of what local really means. And local food generally means something different to everybody. And there's really no one accepted definition. We'll talk about established trends that have been in existence in farmers markets for millennia. We'll talk about new trends that we're seeing here in Southeast Indiana, but also across the state and region. We'll talk about farmers market growth and innovation. We'll talk about new opportunities for producers. We'll talk, like as I mentioned, we'll talk about tower gardens, and then we'll always be happy to answer questions. So when we talk about local food, kind of like I alluded to, it means a little something different for everyone. For some people, local food is restricted as what's within my county or my bi-county region. For some folks, hey, eating a Michigan apple is pretty darn local. And there's a big difference. If you're eating an apple from Michigan versus an apple from Washington State, I think it's pretty obvious which one's most local. So like I said, there's no uniform definition. There's no clear-cut definition accepted by literature, accepted by experts at Purdue or anywhere else. The USDA does have some categories of local depending on grants and funding and things of that nature, but those figures really vary. And they often indicate that local food is within 300 miles or less. Like I said, states, cities, other entities, programs, you name it, define local food a little more strictly. They may say that local is within the Southeast Indiana region. They may say local is within this specific county area. And there's several different reasons why they may do that. I work with producers and homeowners and you name it, that to them, local means Indiana and Indiana only, even though from my back porch, I can see Kentucky. To some folks, they're more than happy to sell products from Michigan and Kentucky and Illinois. And it just really varies depending on what the purpose is of the sale, what the purpose is of a program, etc. So as we continue to go, and since we're on this slide, tell me what your definition of local is by putting a 1-sentence description in the chat if you don't mind, and then we'll keep going and I'll share those as we go. Like I said, I really didn't want to be too data driven today. I could revisit my grad school days, and some of you could probably relate, and jump right into data and just read data all presentation long. But I did want to share a few things here and there concerning local food, concerning local agriculture. And this one is actually from, looking at a broader picture, not just Indiana. So food, local food sales are largely urban. When we think about rural areas in Indiana, the connectivity is a problem. COVID-19, among other problems, has exposed issues with broadband internet connectivity, problems with transportation, you name it. While we're only, myself, I only live 45 minutes from Cincinnati. Just on some of the pieces of property down the road, there's no, phone service. And the same goes for local food, where the urban areas tend to be served a little better than rural. So this chart, this diagram from the USDA does a nice job of showcasing really the number of farms and food hubs out there that are providing a majority of their sales as local. And you can see, the pockets that would have blue or green or dark blue, even yellow, are where you're seeing, more farms with local intermediated food sales. And you can see how they're centered around cities for the most part. So a really interesting fact and figure there. Yes, it's from 2014, 2017, but still pretty darn relevant to today. So the big topic of today and this meeting concerns actual trends in our farmers markets, in our local food systems. And what I mean by trends may mean something a little bit different to you. And what may be new trends in our area, may be older trends in more progressed systems or more innovative systems. And that's not to exclude anyone, but just based on kind of what we're seeing in some of the data that we have. And in all 92 Indiana counties that Purdue Extension serves, most of our ag agents, our ag educators work in some capacity with farmers market vendors, whether it's providing resources like our Food Link program, or doing an educational booth at the market, or just answering questions concerning what can I sell, how do I get this license, etc. So with with established trends, it's not so much that they're bucking innovation, which is so constant in agriculture, but some things just never change. Roadside stands, a great place to start. Dearborn County and the Southeast Indiana region is just littered with roadside stands. And the products sold at these stands can really vary. A lot of times it could be, products like sweet corn and eggs and honeys. And other times it can be, hey, pull up and I'll get you a meat order and we'll get you half a side of beef. It really varies where you're at, but roadside stands are not a new innovation, and they've been going strong for a long time. And I think a lot of the reasoning for this, and when you look at the data from specifically the USDA Ag Census and other sources, is we see a lot of reduced regulation, reduced hurdles when it comes to selling products. A lot of what farmers are dealing with. Oh, 1 second. Hey, if anyone's on the telephone, would you mind muting your mic? Thank you, Tom. Thank you, guys. Yeah, that's the fun thing with Zoom. There's always mic issues. Thank you. So kind of going back, what I was saying about roadside stands, not a new thing, but that lower regulatory hurdle. This past week, I was trying to help a retailer find a place to get eggs. And the minute a farmer tries to sell eggs in a retail establishment, there's a new level of regulation where they have to get a license from the Egg Board. Whereas if I own 5 acres of property in an agriculturally zoned area, I can sell pretty much as many eggs as I want from that property. But the minute I take those eggs somewhere, that's when that extra regulatory step comes in. So that's why roadside stands are still popular. It's easier for the farmer. And oftentimes, if not 99 times out of 100, those people making money off of selling eggs in particular probably have another job. Some really neat data that I'm happy I kind of decided to include last minute were just the fruit and vegetable sales in Dearborn County 3 years ago. A $411,000 figure for one county just for fruit and vegetables. So we're not talking about freezer beef. We're not even talking about eggs. Just fruit and vegetables was that 6-figure mark. And considering the suburban nature of our county, that's incredible. I can imagine other counties throughout Indiana with more farms that just blow that number out of the region. And the great thing, and the reason I just gave you the figure for fruit and vegetables is because those are almost exclusively local. And, many of our products, Beiersdorfer Orchard sells apples, Salatin Orchards in Dearborn County sells apples. Some of those may end up a few states away, but for the most part, a lot of these products are staying in the region. And a lot of these fruit and vegetable sales, many of these figures are data included from our farmers markets. So that's a pretty big impact. I don't know about y'all, but I wouldn't mind having $411,000 in my bank account right now. So a really nice figure there to share. Another established trend that we've seen for years is at-home processing. And not only am I talking specifically about ag products, but also about products like deer and other live game. So many residents in our area, this is nothing new. They continue to raise and process their own meat. They may sell a side or a whole cow here and there, to a few people, but a lot of the consumption, comes on their own. Pretty much every cattleman I know is been eating exclusively their own beef for sometimes decades, and they haven't bought, a pound of ground chuck at the store in years, if ever. But there are many cases where this sale does go to the public. And just like the roadside stands, you don't have to drive too terribly far in Dearborn County to find someone selling freezer beef. Another great thing that we've seen for years are U-Pick operations. So Dearborn County has several, even though we only have a few that are specifically dedicated to U-Pick. Many others, like Richard Salatin's operation in Moores Hill, you can go pick your own apples, but Richard also sells the apples picked for you already. He'll sell you jams and jellies and a lot of vegetables. And then he also does deer processing. So always pick on Richard because he's a good friend and a farmer friend. But there are several U-Pick operations in Dearborn County and several more throughout the entire Southeast region. This is not a new trend, and it's a very COVID-19 friendly trend, thanks to the fact that you're outside. And Purdue Extension is happy to offer some specific guidelines for how to do U-Pick safely, because even though we're outside, we know there's risks. And I'm happy to say that a few farms in Dearborn County doing U-Pick have been nice enough to post our Purdue Extension signage on their farms. So let's dive into some new and emerging trends that we're seeing when it comes to local food and agriculture farmers markets. Like I mentioned, innovation is constant in agriculture at all levels. I didn't include any of this data, but one of the fun things that we see when it comes to innovation in ag is the sheer number of people a farmer can feed this year versus 50, 100, 75 years ago. And we know that number keeps rising. And a lot of that has to do with technology, improved harvesters, tractors, planters, you name it. But then also a lot of that has to do with improved plants. The amount of corn we can produce is vastly different than 50 years ago even. The amount of vegetables we can produce, the disease resistance that's been bred in products like tomatoes and apples has made agricultural innovation what it is today. But when it comes to local food and farmers markets, a few of the emerging trends that I wanted to talk about today, let's start with home delivery. And this is so relevant today considering our current circumstances. Many products, especially fruits and vegetables that are easy to move. You can harvest an apple and keep it out of refrigeration for a while. It'll stay fresh. Same thing goes with tomatoes, eggplants, you name it. And many of these products are finding their way into even institutions like nursing homes and to those that maybe don't get out of the house as often. And when we talk about the risk of what we're dealing with in 2020, providing food to those that maybe don't get out or shouldn't be getting out as often is so critical. So, I'm not talking about just food delivery from Kroger and Walmart and Aldi and all the big producers, but we've seen some really neat innovations in food delivery locally. We have a woman in Southeast Indiana that's done some great work with local food named Trish Belmore. I don't know if Trish is on the call, but Trish has done an amazing job creating a local food collaborative in the Dearborn County area. And she has done home delivery for vegetables and done a really great service to that. And I know that many of her clientele appreciate what she's doing. And this is not exclusive to Dearborn County. Throughout the area, we see a lot of innovation and movement towards home delivery. And even some of the farms directly are willing to deliver their products to you. One really neat thing that I've started seeing more and more often with our farm vendors and farmers markets, et cetera, are local food kits. I work with a farm just right down the road from me in Aurora, or I guess they may have a Lawrenceburg address, Greystone Farm. And these folks have done a really neat service by pairing a lot of their foods together and selling them as kits. And I've heard about this in other markets and in other farm stands where it makes sense. If you've got corn in season, you've got potatoes in season, you've got green beans in season, and you can sell chicken and beef, that sounds like a crock pot meal to me. And so a lot of their customers have found the convenience that comes with pairing those products together, buying them at once and cooking them just like you would at the grocery store. But instead of having just one item that's local, you may go buy a steak at Kroger and then eat local corn. Well, you can do all at once with this kind of trend. And so, beyond my partners in Greystone Farm, there's many other examples of this. And I think the reason we're seeing this as a trend is because it's mirroring what we're seeing in kind of a millennial sense with food kits. Every time I'm on my Facebook, I'm seeing something as far as an advertisement about food kits. And some of those companies are working from Maine to Hawaii. They're big companies shipping food that I'm sure is great. But that trend, I think, has paired hand in hand with local food, and people like Greystone and many others have taken advantage. Like I said, a lot of these meals, and this picture is actually from Greystone Farm, where they raised and sold most everything on the screen there. But there's other products outside of crock pot meals where you can put kebabs together. So if you're a farmer that's got chickens or sells beef and then also sells vegetables, you can put a kebab together. Now there's some extra steps and some regulations and things if you're going to pre-sort and cut meat and things like that. But many farms, like I said, are adapting to this and offering that really neat innovation. So more and more, I think we'll see things like that, and I think it's a very legitimate appeal. Something that I've been really excited to see here lately is restaurant partnerships, where local restaurants have continued to open in the Lawrenceburg, Aurora area, and these restaurants are very hungry and happy to buy, no pun intended with hungry and happy to buy local produce, but also local meats and eggs and beyond. So like I said, this week I was just asked about finding eggs for a local retailer. I've done that before for other restaurants. And the reason this is a thing is because consumers see a benefit in that. Even a billion-dollar enterprise like Kroger, if you see a local sign there, that's where the consumer's eyes are drawn to. There's a lot of research behind that. And the same thing applies for the local businesses. So they've responded to that consumer demand by doing more and more local products, especially the produce, which more than anything is a little simpler than getting meats and other products for the most part. Another thing that I've seen are retailer stands and pop-up markets. So this isn't necessarily a radical concept. Farmers for a long time have taken advantage of good frontage. They pulled up in a parking lot somewhere where they have permission, maybe on the side of a smaller highway, freeway, whatever, maybe not a freeway, and they put together a pop-up market stand. So like I said, not really a radically new concept, but a nice way for certain farms that maybe don't have the best access, where there's not a lot of people driving by. Instead of making their people drive 30, 45 minutes out, these are busy people that they're selling to, or at least that's the understanding. Why not bring the product to them where they're a little easier to get? And so we've seen a lot of that, and I've got some pictures I'd like to share that talk about it. So this is a picture I actually just saw on Facebook today from a brand new store in Greendale, Indiana, so Dearborn County, where two local groups, both Greendale General, the store, and Salatin's Orchard are working together. And so, they posted this, and I snipped this several hours ago today. So I'm thinking there's probably even more likes and comments and shares than what I'm showing on there. But this is the trend, folks. This is what people want to see. Me as a consumer trying to take all my bias and love for local ag out of the picture, I look at that and I say, hey, Richard's my neighbor. That Greendale General store, they've got great iced coffee. I'm so happy they're partnering. That makes me want to eat a BLT. And considering the economic times that we're in, people are feeding off of that and buying into it more and more. And I think it's such a great thing. And I picked on Greendale General, got their permission to share this photo, but there's many other examples of this, both large and small. And it's, I think, a really encouraging trend that we're seeing in our local food economy. And then I mentioned pop-up stands. So for all those on the call that aren't from Dearborn County, I do apologize for all my Dearborn County references, but I did take an example. This is from Harrison County, so a little bit farther more south, Indiana. But this is an example of where farm stands are popping up really anywhere that fits. So in this case, ATE Livestock, they're jumping up with a farm stand at a Dollar General store. And the really interesting thing I think that a lot of business people may think when they see that is, wow, Dollar General will let them use their parking lot? That sounds like a lot of paperwork or a lot of regulation. And what we're finding is it's less than perceived. And so there's a lot of other farms and small businesses, that are finding frontage and access where more people, more drivers, more eyeballs, foot traffic is going to be, and they're taking advantage of it. And especially for those that are in really rural areas that maybe it takes 30, 45 minutes for the average consumer to kind of detour out. While that may be a nice country drive on a Saturday, if I've got a hankering for local green beans on a Wednesday, but I've got to be up at 7 in the morning for work, it's a little easier to find that farm stand, buy that pound of green beans, go home and fry it up. So we're seeing more and more of this, and I think it's a really good trend. So, oops, kind of skipped one there. So I kind of alluded to something, and I actually didn't add this to my presentation until this morning, specifically because I've been helping a couple of clients find local eggs. So, I hate to bring up COVID-19 because it'd be great to have a meeting where I can forget about that for a while and pretend everything is normal. But regardless, that's where we're at right now. And when it comes to new opportunities for farmers to find new markets and find new avenues to discover those new trends, it's interesting because COVID-19 has exposed some of these trends or exposed some of these problems that we've seen in agriculture for a while, or trends that were already bubbling to the surface, as I've written here. And one in particular that I wanted to talk about was local eggs. So I've helped 2 different businesses this past week find local eggs to sell at their retail establishments. And it took a few steps because that information actually isn't publicly available. I had to contact the state egg board on campus at Purdue to get a list. And what's interesting is that list was very, very brief. As of today, there were 0 producers in Dearborn County that were legally able to sell eggs to a retailer. And that's also Ohio County. So out of 2 counties with roughly 60,000 in population, there wasn't a single producer selling eggs that could legally take those eggs from their farm to a retailer. Why do I bring that up? Why are you talking about this, John? Well, I think there's an opportunity there, and the egg board license isn't some $1,000 a year venture. I think it's $45 a year. There are obviously additional regulatory steps for ensuring that that product is safe. But a lot of the farmers I know selling eggs from their home, selling eggs from their farm stands are already pretty darn close to following those regulations. So something that I want to encourage everyone on the call to share, I want to encourage everyone on the call to talk about, is getting more farmers certified by the Indiana Egg Board so they can sell to these retailers that are calling me, calling other people like Trish Belmore on the call and saying, hey, I'm glad to sell my eggs to you, but what stores are looking to buy eggs? Because like I said, I've worked with several retailers here recently that are looking for more avenues to sell eggs. And if you're producing enough eggs, why not sell it in 5 or 6 stores instead of just at your farm stand? So big encouragement. There's a link right there to learn about the licensing. And Mark Straw and the great folks at the Indiana State Egg Board are happy to help you out. Another new opportunity that's been a huge topic throughout the COVID-19 pandemic has been at-home processing. So I already touched on this, so we're kind of revisiting it, but with the at-home processing, very, very popular for sides of beef and doing processing for deer and other live game. But with COVID-19 exposing bottlenecks in our food system, particularly our animal agriculture food system, there's been a renewed interest among really everyone in the region for finding new ways to get more people to process and kill meat and then sell it from there. So perhaps more than any other subsector of agriculture, produce, grains, et cetera, COVID-19 really hurt animal ag. And part of that is because these processing plants, they closed, they became backlogged, and they really forced a lot of these farmers to make tough decisions. And what this has done, and for local interests across the state and region, it's brought to the forefront the need to encourage and hopefully develop new processing facilities or expand those that are already existing. Because what I started hearing, and what the other A&Rs I'm guessing on the call started hearing from farmers was, hey, I can't get into Napoleon locker or this locker until the end of next year or the middle of next year or 6 months or more. John, can you help me find another processor? And unfortunately, it revealed the need for more of them. And so while COVID-19, you would have 2 or 3 people get sick in a processing plant, they'd have to close the plant. Those problems were already existing, where it wasn't a closure of the plant. It was, we can only take so many sides of beef. We can only process so many head a year or a day. Work with us later when you can. So Purdue Extension is working with the USDA, the State Department of Ag, the Board of Animal Health, and others to prepare more resources to address this need in smaller scale processing, and then also helping the larger scale processors be more prepared for a pandemic like we've seen. There's another link right there, and everyone on the call, I'll be sure that I post this slide so you have these links for later. What I'm going to share on the next slide is a really neat infographic or a GIF. I'm hoping everyone can see the animation. Let me know if you can't. But this was made in early April or maybe mid-April by some of our experts on campus. And while it specifically addresses the failures we had with COVID-19 within large packing and processing plants, it's also very relevant to local food and the bottlenecks we saw with going to Kroger, and yes, people were buying way too much. They were buying, just in large quantities, but that food was still there. It was just a matter of how to get it there. And so this really neat graphic kind of better explains what happened during the beginning of the pandemic and why we saw the bottleneck. So this graphic's called The Road from Farm to Table. I want to credit everyone on campus that helped put this together. So once again, I've already mentioned this, the worst damage that we saw when everything happened, and this is both local and nationwide, was the closure of these processing plants. If a farmer's got 50 hogs, 500 hogs, 20 hogs ready to be processed, if he or she can't send them somewhere, what are they supposed to do? So myself and the other ag educators on this call were actually sitting in and participating in calls on how to inform producers on how to keep their pigs from gaining weight. I raised hogs for FFA in high school. I never thought in my life that I would sit in on a meeting for how to help hogs lose weight, because everything with hog production is weight gain. So, it's just crazy thing to reveal. And like I said, the majority of this impact was on large scale producers, but I certainly heard stories of smaller producers in our area having issues as well. The most recent data shows that our meat packing facilities are at 95% plus capacity. And like I said, the greatest impact were on the big guys, but plenty of the little guys were caught in the crossfire too. I'm going to admit, I gave a presentation about a month ago on COVID-19. I stole some of these slides from there, but they're still very relevant for local ag. I'm really proud of all my partners and all my fellow educators and the campus specialists at Purdue, because they've put together a lot of specific resources for how to deal with the current situation we're in. So if you're a local producer and you're wondering, what impacts COVID-19 is going to continue having on your market, there's a link right there, and it's a very specific resource for you. I mentioned earlier, I've got UPIC operators in Dearborn County that were wondering how to keep and encourage and make their customers feel safe. When a customer visits a store, whether it's a Walmart, a Kroger, or a farm stand, or an Aldi, whatever, they want to feel safe. They want to feel like they're not going to get sick. So that guide, that second link there, is specific to UPIC operators. And there's also a guide there for farmers markets. And I'm so thankful that our farmers markets in Dearborn County, Michelle Cohn, Susan Greco, the people I work with in Dearborn County and beyond Dearborn County as well, we're really happy and willing to take our resources and apply them. Most of the vendors, I think they may be required to have masks. Social distancing is highly encouraged. Customers are advised not to pick up produce until they want it, et cetera. And I think, looking at, the safety of certain events right now, I feel very confident that our farmers markets in Southeast Indiana are very safe to attend if you follow the CDC guidelines. So there's another link right there for other COVID-19 specific resources. And many of those are specific to local farmers and helping local farmers out. So getting into the innovation and growth we see at the farmers markets, a really good transition here. Dearborn County specifically has 3 markets. And like I said, I apologize to those that are on the call that aren't from Dearborn County. I know you've got many of your markets, and when we get to the Q&A, please feel free to share specific information about your market. Several others in the surrounding area are also very vital to our region. There are 3 active markets in Dearborn County, Bright, Dillsboro, and Lawrenceburg. We've also got several regional markets in counties beyond us and even into Ohio. Batesville, Milan, Rising Sun, Harrison, Brookville, and then several Hamilton County markets. These are all relevant to Southeast Indiana because we have producers living in Indiana selling in, or living in Dearborn County, Ripley County, Decatur County, selling to all these markets. And you know, like they always say, if you know one thing goes, it impacts something else. So when the crisis that we're dealing with started right now, some of the markets weren't open, some were, and we heard a lot about best practices and how to address that when all this started out. And like I said, I feel so confident right now that we're safely addressing that. So getting into new innovations that we've seen at local markets, and I've got a few people on this call. Trish, I see you're here, that have been responsible or that have been such an integral part of making these innovations happen, moving these innovations forward. So here's some new things we've seen at markets across the region. We've seen more SNAP approvals, so people getting to use their benefits at the markets. We've seen more activities for kids. If you're a busy parent like myself and you want something for your kid to do, or you need to talk to a farmer for a while, or you just want to get out and socialize, many of our markets have activities for kids. And obviously that's been kind of, cut back a little bit with COVID-19. But, before a lot of this happened, my office even helped host things. We would have, kind of look and see exhibits where I'd bring my entomology kit and I'd have bugs on display and I'd have coloring sheets for the kids, and the kids would stay there and kind of hang around, and some of the parents might keep an eye on them and go walk a couple booths down and go talk to a farmer and buy some greens. It's a really innovative thing. And when we think traditionally about farmers markets, we don't always think about kids, but a lot of our market innovation has blended that, hey, let's help mom and dad come to the market by offering something for our kids to do. And then we've actually had, specific education topics addressed by several stakeholders at our market. So I'm proud to work with our Southeast Indiana community gardeners. They do a lot of great work. Shira Tedesco and that group have been so helpful to me, and hopefully vice versa. Shira is almost always at the market when they're open, or someone else from the group, and they're constantly offering education and resources. If you want to find one of the best community gardens in the area, start in Lawrenceburg at the community gardens, and then beyond with our gardens in Bright and Greendale and in other places. And then I'm really proud to see how active our master gardeners have been at our markets. We've kind of delayed it this year, but for several years, the master gardeners in Southeast Indiana have sold plant starts at a lot of the markets. So in Dearborn County, we've had some great success raising funds for other programs and education at the markets, because the gardeners go out there and they start tomato and pepper plants. They sell them for $1 or $2 a piece, and they make a few $100 throughout a few weeks, and that money goes right back into the program. So I think a really innovative thing to see more and more of that. And then when it comes to entertainment, Lawrenceburg and many other outlets and markets, Dillsboro as well, have done such a great job pairing special events. Outdoor yoga has been really popular at the markets, and that's another thing that's relatively COVID-19 safe. You keep your 6 feet of distance. The yoga instructor has a speaker going, and then he or she can do their class. And I think a lot of that's being done safely. Maybe it's not as widely done as it was a few months ago, but I'm really excited to see those things still happening. The live music is always a big draw. And what's nice is a lot of these markets are in city centers that have outdoor speakers, or maybe a restaurant nearby that can play music. And that pairing is such a good thing, for the same reason I was telling you about the kids. You may drag someone to the market, and more times than not, I'm usually pulling my wife. She's like, "You're such a nerd. You just want to go to the market and talk to the farmers." I'm like, "Well, it's kind of my job, and it's kind of, I want some fresh bell peppers for my eggs this morning." But, I drag her down there, and she loves to see all the jewelry, and she loves to see, the music. And if there's a live musician or someone doing something like yoga, she loves that, and I'm busy talking to the farmers. So farmers markets have really expanded themselves and become an and offering to more than just those that are ag inclined or looking for fresh products. And from what I can tell, these are often drawing those larger crowds. So just want to put a plug in for our 3 markets in Dearborn County. Like you saw on the last slide, there are plenty of markets beyond Dearborn County, and I strongly encourage you to support local food, support local vendors. Here's a picture from Lawrenceburg not too long ago. We've got 3 markets. You see the times, Friday for Bright and Saturdays for Dillsboro and Lawrenceburg. So like I said, I'll be sharing this presentation for everyone, and you'll be able to pull that address up. And like I said, please support your local farmers. Get to know more about what they're doing and what they could probably offer you. Okay, I am really excited for this next part because, like I said, we at Purdue Extension, Dearborn County, we have a really great local expert. Really, I'm going to call Colleen a statewide expert on aeroponic tower gardening. And if you haven't seen these things before, you're in for a real treat the next half hour or so, because Colleen is going to tell you all about the neat things that we're doing with tower gardens, and more specifically what she's doing with tower gardens. And we're just really excited. So Colleen, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll just click as you're ready.
Okay, thanks, John. This has been super informative, so I've really enjoyed being on here tonight. I love the topic of local food. I especially love the topic when it involves kids and getting to create these fun, exciting experiences around growing your own food and eating the food. That's something that I've had the absolute pleasure to see over and over again with growing with these aeroponic garden systems. And what I'm talking about is when kids are part of the growing process and they get to watch their plants grow right there in school or in youth programs, they want to eat it. It's like a magical trick that I just have seen happen over and over again. And so that's what excites me. I love how it changes the way that kids are more likely to try something new and get some of those really great foods in their bodies. So just a quick story about how this kind of came to be in our region was really back in 2015 when I heard from a distance about a teacher in Bronx, New York, who was using Tower Garden to grow food with his students. And so I'll tell you more about what Tower Garden is, but let's start first by just watching this like 2 to 3 minute video together that John's gonna play for us. And you'll see this teacher in Bronx, New York, utilizing a Tower Garden in his classroom. So go ahead, John.
Thanks, Colleen. And if anyone can't hear, let me know. You can just shoot a message in the chat. But here we go. Seed to plate.
Tower garden is like this plant, but you don't need soil. And then the water comes up, and then it comes down and rain on the roof.
Those things you can't farm in the South Farm. They're farming. So many. Food is a problem. Yet for all of us, food is a solution. Get some of the highest rates of juvenile diabetes, juvenile obesity in the nation. We can change that. Absolutely have the power to change schools in this generation. I think I still see the seed. That happened. You mean I can pass it around and they can see the seed? My job is to teach kids how we grow food. And I'm asking everyone to roll up their sleeves, get a little dirty, grow something great.
He lets us plant stuff like salad, cucumbers, tomatoes.
My 4th and 5th graders came into a classroom with no one to build a tower garden and literally turned it into a farm. And we talked about how healthy food builds healthy minds and healthy bodies, and we're already doing it right here in school. So did everybody plant the seed? Yeah! It's like the joy that these little kids feel putting the seed in the ground, watching it blossom. OMG, as they say, this is their moment.
I think he cares about us a lot, and he wants us to learn and have fun at the same time.
I'm not a farmer, but I'm planting seeds.
He always says seeds are like people because they need
21st century technology to generate food and to create this beautiful thing to sit by and actually eat. These game changers, it's empowering. They're growing. The plants are growing, and they're responsible for it. And, you know, they grow their own. They really start changing the way they see their relationship with the world and their place. Good. I love it.
Thank you for sharing that, John. I appreciate that. And thank you for putting that picture up. I don't know if you guys caught that delay on there. It was a little bit hard for me to hear, but that is the video that really kicked off everything that we've done with towers in our region. And most of it's happened in Dearborn County that I'm going to tell you about. But basically, a tower garden is an aeroponic growing system. And so it's slightly different, or definitely different from hydroponics and from aquaponics. And so just to quickly clarify that, just the basics is that, and we'll start with hydroponics. In hydroponic system, the roots of the plants are in water, and they're always in a water solution with nutrients in it. And then like in aquaponics, you know, the fish are in the water, or sorry, not in the water with the plants, but that's where the plants get their nutrients, is from the waste of the fish. And again, the roots of the plants in an aquaponic system, the roots are always in the water solution. So the main difference when you compare those with an aeroponic growing system like tower garden is that the roots are either in air or water solution. And so there's actually a timer that cycles the water on and off. And then there's a timer for the lights when you're growing inside. So it's a very, very, very simple system that makes it really easy to have big wins and successes with kids with just a little bit of time, which makes it just really, really convenient for teachers. And so, well, after I saw this video and I learned a little bit more about what Stephen Ritz was doing in Bronx, New York in 2015, I was currently teaching at Lawrenceburg High School at the time. And I just it was like a light bulb. I just knew I needed one for my home, and I knew I needed one for our schools. And so that's kind of where it began. We started a program called Mission Nutrition, and we had students at the high school level be trained on these aeroponic growing systems, and they worked with first graders and second graders. And that's kind of how it evolved. We tried lots of different things with the lower grade levels to see what would happen and what would work best. And what we kind of settled on is that it was really easy to grow lettuce year round in these classrooms throughout the whole school year, right there in front of the kids. And so we would just celebrate with, like, we would celebrate the lettuce harvest with salad parties. That's what we called them. So salad parties, salad events, whichever way you want to say that. So we'd bring in different types of vegetables to pair with the lettuce. And it was that simple, and it continues to be that simple. So that's been replicated in many different school buildings. Just to give you some numbers, we have over 20 tower gardens in this region in schools, and over 10, 15 buildings, I would say. So this is a really, really cool way to expose kids to growing. And I mean, it doesn't get any more local than that. I mean, it's basically can be like from tower to teeth. Pretty much. So what's also really cool and great to mention is that Tower Garden has an easy dolly that goes with it. So what we did with Mission Nutrition at Lawrenceburg School is we would actually wheel the Tower Garden from classroom to classroom, so we could impact hundreds of kids in a single school year with just a single tower, which is really neat. So that's really where it began for us. And some things that I learned early on in the first couple of years is that it is so important to train the staff appropriately and train them up front. So if you're implementing a new tower garden in a youth program or any sort of organization where there's going to be different staff members taking care of it, that looks a lot different than if someone has a tower garden in their home. So to just clarify the differences, think about it, that when someone orders a tower garden for their home, which is what it was originally designed for, that person makes that conscious decision to get that tower in their home, and they know they're going to take care of it. They know that they wanted it XYZ, and they know what to do, and it stays in that home for forever, okay? Versus when a tower garden is put into a building space, for example, let's just say a school, then there could be rotating staff coming in and out. There could be different staff utilizing it. And so what's really important to make sure that a tower does not end up in a closet is that the staff, you have to train the staff and make sure that they are on board. There's a team that's going to take care of it. Because even though it doesn't take a lot of work, it's just so important to set up that team. And I have an example of something we did last year in our area that where we really intentionally trained staff members, and we saw big impact. And so I'll jump over to that. And that was with a new idea for us in this region to partner with a school cafeteria with a food service director at South Dearborn Community Schools. And so we started this idea with their food service director in a local business just across the state border in Ohio called JTM Food Group. And they worked with us with their K-12 cafeteria experience to help us work with the cafeteria staff members at South Dearborn Middle School to develop this thing that we called Tower to Tray. And so basically what we did is we planned out early on. I mean, we were doing this last summer, the planning, it all kicked off for the first week of August. We trained all the staff in the cafeteria. And in this case, instead of it being the tower being in a classroom, we really focused on bringing in the cafeteria staff in on this. And I think this is going to be key after this pandemic to really allow the adults to handle the food because yes, it's tricky to think about a tower garden in a classroom right now and a kid potentially coughing on something or something like that. But what we did with Tower to Tray is the cafeteria staff grew the different foods that they were growing, so different herbs, different lettuces. But one thing that was really exciting is we had them grow a ton of bok choy, a Chinese cabbage, and we use that in a stir fry harvest event. So we planned ahead. And then in November, we did a harvest event, and I have some cool data to share that John's going to show. Okay, John, can you go to the next one? Thank you so much. Okay, so looking at this, and you may or may not be able to see this, but again, that bok choy that was grown there was thrown into their lunch dish that was on the food service line. So like anybody who's having school lunch that day, the kids knew that that was going to happen. It was told to them through their announcements and things. And the only other option that day for an entree or whatever at the school lunch was pizza. And you can see that 95.45% of the kids chose to eat the dish that featured the bok choy that was grown right there at the school over the pizza option. And I'm reading it as I'm talking here, but some other things that we gathered from some survey data is that 82% of the kids purchased a lunch that day. 88% of the students who answered surveys tried the Asian slaw, which was an extra bonus thing that we added, or the cafeteria staff added the bok choy to, and they liked the taste of it. 81% of the kids who ate the bok choy said they would eat it again, and 87% of them thought it was very exciting or a good idea to have the opportunity to eat foods that are grown right there at schools. And you can see there's some quotes from the students too. So that was a really, really fun thing that we just tried last year for the first time. And I really love partnering with the cafeteria staff, and I'm excited to do that again this school year. So that was one thing. And one more thing that we can say about that partnership with the cafeteria staff and food service director is we did a smoothie tasting event, which is another really fun way to feature something that was grown right there on their tower garden in their cafeteria space. And that was where we used kale to feature the kale in 2 different smoothies that we served that day at lunch. And so that was like, instead of it being in the food service line, that was a like bonus setup table on the side, but it was free smoothies for the kids. They could come and grab them, and we like couldn't keep them away. They we didn't want to, right? But they were just guzzling these smoothies. And we had like a strawberry banana, kale, almond milk smoothie, and a pineapple banana, coconut milk and kale smoothie as well. So that was fun. That was really fun. And we'll go ahead and look at those numbers. So some of the things that we gathered here, you can see about 500 samples of green smoothie and pink smoothie that described to you guys were prepared for the event, and over 200 students took part in the event. So a lot of them took more than one sample. And we saw some really great things again. I love that 82% of the kids that answered the survey thought it was either very exciting or a good idea to have the opportunity to eat foods that are grown right there at their school. So that was neat. We also got to feature recipe cards that the kids could take home. And we just had a lot of really great conversations that day at lunch. So I really loved being a part of that. So a little bit about what we've been up to, or what I've been up to during quarantine. Just happens to be the timing of this, but my most favorite thing I want to talk about is a new program at the Yes Home. The Yes Home is in Dearborn County. It's a residential supportive living facility that serves abused, neglected, and abandoned youth ages 12 to 20. So if you're not from here locally, that's what the Yes Home, that's who the Yes Home serves. And there's a team of us that stemmed off the SEI Community Gardens group with Shira Tedesco that John mentioned. And we've been able to implement this gardening, health, and nutrition program that really goes from gardening to cooking and mindfulness portion with yoga and meditation and journaling, which has been such a gift to be a part of. And Tower Garden is also playing a role there. So the Yes Home was able to get a Tower Garden inside, and it's pretty close to where their kitchen is located. And we've had one salad event so far, and this week on Friday we're going to have our second salad event with them and smoothie event. So we've been able to do these sorts of program sessions with them through Zoom, just like this. The kids that are all living at that residential place there at the Yes Home tune in on Zoom with us, and we do some quote unquote type cooking together and gardening together and yoga and meditation together, and it's been really awesome. And I'm just happy to hear that from the kids and hear that they are requesting another tower because they love the taste of the lettuce so much, and they want to be able to eat it more, and they want to be able to make their own salad. So again, I'm telling you, it's like magic. I never anticipated that. I had no idea that it was going to be like that, but I see it over and over and over again, from little teeny kids, preschool level, all the way up, even preschool, all the way up to older kids, that even I have to admit that too. When I grow something, I want to eat it. And so I love being able to be a part of creating those positive experiences. Again, so that one day when the kids in the schools that I'm working with have a choice to try a different, or start to cook for themselves, or grocery shop for themselves, or go to farmers markets, that it won't be so scary or intimidating to try raw fruits and vegetables that they may not have tried otherwise. So it's really fun to be able to do that. And one more thing on the Yes Home. So talking about local farmers and farmer stands, today they actually took a trip to Busty's Fruit and Vegetable Farm to be able to pick their vegetables that they're going to add to their salads for our event on Friday. And they also picked some kale for their smoothies that we're going to do on our event on Friday with them. So that opportunity has stemmed off of this program that all just started with growing in garden boxes outdoors, in addition to the Tower Garden. And it's really neat. I kind of see this over and over again. I know it's definitely been the case for me that the Tower Garden has been a segue to bigger garden production. So for me here at our farm, I've gone from no outdoor garden to a Tower Garden giving me the confidence that I can grow things, even though outdoor gardening is so very different from tower gardening. It makes me want to grow more. And so my garden outdoors has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like the biggest it's ever been and the most successful it's ever been this year, which is really just neat to see in my own experience, but also in the experiences of kids in schools. And I love that. I also am excited about this new vision, or this new direction of adding a mindfulness, meditation, journaling, yoga part to this. I don't do that. I have experts that do that I bring in to do that sort of thing at the Yes Home, but I've been in conversations with implementing that same sort of vibe of not just gardening, but branching that to cooking with the kids and adding in mindfulness sessions at local schools in Dearborn County. And so I'm really excited about that. It's pretty early to say any details about that, but I'm excited. Another fun thing, I just got this picture sent to me today. Let's see, do you have a picture from Mr. McCord. Okay, thank you so much. So this has also been really fun too. I love connecting with teachers. I love giving them confidence that they can utilize Tower Garden and succeed with it and really thrive. That's my goal. I want them to thrive with Tower Garden, and not just teachers, but I think because I'm a former teacher, that's one of my favorite go-tos of working in schools. However, anyone like in a library or like in several of all three of the New Horizons locations in our region that serve adults with special needs also have been utilizing Tower Garden for several years in our area. And again, I like to work with these people who have Tower Gardens so that I can help them have successful experiences. And I pulled up this picture of Mr. McCord from Sedmond Dearborn Schools, because this is an amazing ag teacher that I got to meet just right before the pandemic. And we got to connect, and he was so excited. And then the pandemic hit and schools closed, and he was so worried about his tower. And he took it upon himself to bring that tower home. I mentioned it, I just threw it out there like, hey, why don't you take it home? Ask your principal or your administrators if you could take it home and keep learning at home. And he's totally like gone above and beyond to do this for his students, to really put the time in to just get that much more confident in the equipment over this quarantine time. And I just know he's going to come back stronger than ever. And I'm just really thankful for teachers like Mr. McCord. So I wanted to show off that picture that he sent me today. He was very proud of his tower, and I'm very proud of him. And then other things I've been up to during quarantine. So a big chunk of the time when no one was going anywhere, or when I definitely wasn't going anywhere when the pandemic first hit, John asked me to create some training videos that we can use to help people that we either aren't able to get in reach with, like maybe they're across the state or beyond, or maybe they just, during this quarantine time, resources for staff, teachers, people who are part of either schools or libraries or 4-H programs, or it's beyond over and over. I mean, there's so many possibilities, but youth basically geared towards people utilizing Tower Garden with youth. And so I created a ton of videos that I put on YouTube. And if John wants to share that, or you can just search. Oh, there it is. Okay, so maybe I'll pull it up and you can take a look at it. We haven't really got to share these a whole lot yet, so I'm excited for people to use them. I put, a lot of time into basically breaking down how I would do an in-person training, and tried to break it down into smaller segments of basically tips, tricks, kind of like the Cliff Notes version of what I learned, what you need to know when growing in a school or a place like that. So those videos are free to use, to share, and I plan to share more on that channel. So all geared towards schools and youth programs utilizing aeroponic garden systems with, my experiences are with Tower Garden. So that's a little bit. I could really share more, but that was a basic overview I wanted to share with you guys. And John, is there anything else you'd like me to elaborate on, or would you like to do some questions?
Yeah, let me just cover a couple more things. Colleen, thank you so much. Obviously, stay on the call, don't go anywhere. But, Colleen has done so much for us. And technically, the funding that had her working specifically with Purdue was supposed to end last month. And I'm so excited that, not so excited. Part of the reason the funding was extended was because of the pandemic. We had to change some of the grant work that she was doing. But, she has been such a help to me and our entire county. One thing that I want to show, I'm going to share a different screen now. I'm going to go back to kind of to where we were. Let me pull it up right here. I wanted to show everyone, 2 weeks ago, if we had been living in a normal world, we would have been at County Fair. And we actually, before and after County Fair, we're going to have several programs together, Colleen and I, obviously in person. And obviously those didn't happen. So one program we were going to work on, and the reason I bring this up is because we're going to do these at some point. We're going to have more of these in-person programs, and we're going to have Colleen there as our statewide expert presenting this. But 2 weeks ago, we would have been giving really essentially this presentation at the county fair. And Colleen would have been working the tower, pulling the products off and making us smoothies, and I would have been helping, and it would have been really fun. And she's done that with our homemaker group. She's done it some things with the Master Gardener group, and we were going to do even more. But these things are still coming, and like Colleen's mentioning with the youth home in Dearborn County, there's still ways to do it that aren't risky as far as COVID-19. And I really encourage you. I just put the copy of the presentation in the chat box. I'll post it on our Facebook and our website too. But I really encourage you to come to this slide. It's slide 23, and click on this link. Follow the YouTube channel and visit and see what she's done. Our county office is going to roll out those videos. Colleen, I'm sorry I haven't got to that yet. I'm going to work on a plan for us to unveil those really statewide. Because the reason Colleen is working for Purdue is because she's a statewide expert. So that expertise that she has spent the time and her money and her skills to develop is going to be released not only for Dearborn County, but for the entire state and hopefully the entire region for farm to school. So you're so thankful to have Colleen here. And I want to jump back 1 second again to just address and thank McCord for all he does, because FFA is a big partner of us. They're a big local food partner. Also, Roy Johnson and Melissa Andrew, there are 2 other ag teachers in Dearborn County, have already been big partners for our office. We've worked on things such as local plant sales, et cetera. They've helped the park board out. They're a really big help to us. And just like with this event, McCord would have been helping me announce livestock shows this week or 2 weeks ago at County Fair. And obviously we're kind of bummed out that didn't happen. Just last thing before we do get to a question and answer is this is the first part of a 6-part series. We've got a few of the other ag educators on the call that will be leading these talks. So after we're done here with the question and answer, I encourage you to put it on your calendar for next week to join us for a tree management and woody ornamentals talk. That will be given by A&R educator Richard Beckert from Jackson County. July 22nd, we'll be doing a gardening program with 3 of our educators that are currently on the call here today. Simon, Richard, Robert. Simon, Robert, and then I forget, who's our 3rd person on that one? Put it in the chat for me, I'm sorry. Because we've got several educators working on that one. Tom, thank you, Tom. Sorry, Tom. I see that you're there, thanks. And then we'll have a farm finance talk with Kyle Weaver from Switzerland County on July 29th. A week later, we'll do a lawn care tip talk with Jeff Hermish from Decatur County. And then we'll do a pond management talk with Dave Osborne. So we're just so thankful that this is the start of this series. We've got a good turnout today. We're still running on Facebook Live, but now I'd like to do some question and answers for those on the call. So go ahead and jump in on the chat or jump in with your mic.
John, I was just going to say, and to Colleen, this has been great. A lot of great information. Thanks very much for the presentation and John getting this together, and Colleen helped to present.
Thank you. Colleen, the first one's for you. Robert, our educator in Jennings County, is asking, how complicated is Tower Garden?
Okay, so this is what you do. You take it out of the box, put it together. That part's really simple. I mean, there's directions and everything. And then it holds 20 gallons at the bottom, like in the basin at the bottom of the unit. And so you just fill it with 20 gallons of water. It's not like, so I have a background in science, worked in lab science before I was a teacher. It's not like lab science. Like you can, have it not quite be that much water that you put in there. And then there's a Tower Tonic solution. So it's like a nutrient solution. There's 2 different types. You put 200 milliliters of each of those in the basin with the 20 gallons of water. And then like the pump is at the bottom. And so you just plug in the timer for the water. It cycles on and off. It tells you how to set it up, but basically when you're growing inside, it's like, 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off, or 45 minutes on, 1 minute off, or 5 minutes off. Sorry. It's actually, I'm just now remembering that the company updated it, and you don't even have to do that. You just push a button and it has a letter I on it, and it's already set up for you for indoor growing. And then You don't have to change water. I saw that question pop up. You don't have to change the water. You're just going to add water to it. But again, you put the water in there, you have the lights plugged in, everything. Like the lights are cycle just like the sun. The water cycles on its own. And you just watch it grow. And then every week, I recommend that you check the pH level and you check the water. So I have like a checklist that I teach kids how to do. And basically, I'm giving you like the full answer here, but then what you do every week is just like check, look to see how much water there is. If there's less than half basin, again, you're just approximating it. Then I teach people to add 5 gallons of water and 50 milliliters of each of the nutrient solutions. So there's 2. So 50 milliliters of A and 50 milliliters of B. And then check the pH. Needs to be in a range that it says it all there for you. But I also have resources that I linked on my YouTube videos, and I can also send to anyone and everyone. These are ones that I've always used for my students and just send out for the Yes Home, for example, and other places like that. But then check the pH. And then the other things you just do is, like, I'm looking at mine right here. I have one in my dining room. But you just wipe down the outer surface of it with a wet paper towel so that there's no buildup that grows, like it doesn't grow, but like mineral deposits will kind of gather in the seams if you don't wipe it down every week. So I teach kids to do that, wipe it down. And then, like, if a plant doesn't grow, you just replant it. You just put more seeds in, and that's it. And then I do recommend every like 4 to 6 months, more like 3 to 5 would probably be a better range. Right around 4 or 5, whatever, definitely no longer than 6 months, that you disassemble the whole unit and you soak it in vinegar and water. And so you need like 3 gallons of vinegar, put water in the rest of to fill up the 20 gallons, and then soak all the pieces in there for 24 to 48 hours, rinse it, and that's it. Honestly, the hardest part is knowing what you're going to do with what you grow, because it's going to grow and it's going to grow a lot. So if you don't have a plan, you'll have like this monstrous growth, and it's like, what do we do with all this stuff that we're growing? And the other thing is like knowing what to grow, what grows well. But I have info sheets and stuff like that for those sorts of topics as well that I'm happy to share.
Let me put it this way: if I can do it, anyone can. So it's you know, that's the first thing I thought when we first brought Colleen on as a team member at Purdue. I thought, man, I'm happy I've got her, because you know she can pretty much take the lead. But guess what? I feel confident enough to do it. So just really proud of what we were working on. And obviously COVID-19's put a kink in about everything, but we're still doing a lot. I'm really excited that Colleen has prepared these videos, and they're going to be used for years, because the interest and use in tower gardens, and Colleen, you may be able to comment on this, you know, because of COVID-19, I think it's going up. I think people are investing more. And I can tell you right now, the interest in gardening is skyrocketing. I mean, you know, Tom and you know, Simon and everyone else on the call can tell you the same thing. I've been getting so many calls about gardening. I can't keep up because people are at home more, and they're not going to the club or something, or going out to the mall. Their entertainment is, hey, let's go plant some cucumbers. You know, and I'm seeing a lot more of that. And I guarantee you, and I guess Colleen can comment on this, the interest in tower garden is the same. It's going right up.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, they were like sold out, and I've never seen it that way. Not that I would necessarily know that for the whole history of the company since they've been selling tower garden. But I mean, it was like they were plumb out of tower gardens. I think it was by April. And I was like, whoa, like what is going on? Because Trish Belmore, who you mentioned, is helping Milan schools get going with some tower gardens. And there's been like just a big delay. No big deal. I mean, now we're back up and running there with one of their teachers that's going to start with a tower garden. But it was like a 7-8 week delay, I think. Because yeah, which is exciting. In the end, it's exciting because I think it's awesome that people are excited about wanting to grow their own food. It's so cool. It's been such a great thing for me as a mom too. My oldest child or older child was 2 when we got our first tower garden. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted it. I wanted her to see it grow and wanted her to be a part of wanting to eat it. So that's cool.
Well, thank you again, Colleen. So any more questions about tower gardens, local food trends, anything like that? Well, like I said, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. I've got another screen. I actually got 3 screens going right now. So I've got another screen over here showing the Facebook Live. We've got a lot of people watching on there. So I just want to thank everyone. Like I mentioned, this is going to be recorded. So I'll post it to the event in Facebook. We'll have it on our page as well and online. If anyone didn't see the PowerPoint, it's in the chat. I'll stay on for a few minutes, but otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. These meetings will vary in length, but I really encourage you to hop on. It's the exact same link for next week, the exact same link. So you can save it, you can bookmark it, and just click at 5 o'clock next Wednesday on the 15th and join us for a talk on woody ornamentals and tree management. But with that, thank you so much for joining us and have a nice evening.
Thank you.